Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Today, well, I mean, if you don't know what this game is, there's really no hope for you, so that's that. Yeah, I really haven't been playing much in my spare time. This last week, it's been a lot of just like packing and prepping to move and working on exploring stuff and recording LPs. So, but you know, WoW Classic's coming out, so that'll consume some stuff, and then followed right after by Iceborne. It's going to be a very fun September. Yeah, the condo move is looking good. I was cleared to close. I got my gas and electric sorted. I got why would I get an email notification that I'm streaming? What? Why would they send that to me? I know I'm streaming. If I need an email notification to learn that I'm streaming, there's a big problem. Anyways. Yeah, gas, electric, internet's pretty much all sorted. It was a bummer though. Apparently Spectrum Internet, they were pretty booked for Labor Day weekend. Go figure. So they can't actually get in until Labor Day itself, the 2nd. And I'm not moving until I have internet, so that delayed things a little bit, but not a big deal. I've got like pretty much all my furniture picked out. We've got various cleaning crews scheduled. It's all looking pretty good. Exciting times. Yeah, that's that. As for the exploring series, this week release, we went back to normal SCP stuff. No more Ouroboros. Well, it's funny that it's normal SCP stuff, but it was the freaking Vorhole. Overall, that video is decently received. Of my last 10 videos, it was sitting at like number 1 as far as views in the first couple days. So I think plenty of people are like, you know, sort of avoiding the Ouroboros stuff, and they're like, oh, he's back to normal SCP. So that's good. It was a decent enough video. I didn't really have any complaints about it. And I also released a video on the Ultramarines in Warhammer 40k, which turned out to be my last 40k video before that series goes on hiatus. Now keep in mind, you know, technically my Middle-earth series, my Elder Scrolls series, Star Wars series, those are all on hiatus. This is more of a hiatus than those, though. This is more like I'm definitely planning on coming back to it, because I only made 13 videos in 40k. That's really not enough. But yeah, after finishing the Ultramarines one, I was just like, I just can't keep this up. Because it was just kind of stressful. I mean, if you're curious and you don't know like the scope of things, just Google Ultramarines and go to like the Warhammer 40k fandom page for Ultramarines. Just go to that page and then just start scrolling. Just start scrolling down. And that's pretty much like every topic is sort of maybe not that large in scope. Some are smaller, but... And so it's just like, okay, I'm giving myself less time to work on these 40k videos because it's a side series and I'm just trying to cram it in over the weekend. And, you know, if I just knew everything, if I just had all this knowledge in my head, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But I have to learn all there is to know about the Ultramarines, because if I don't know enough, then I don't know what to cut out of a summary and what to include. And so it's really just a daunting task. It's why I said, I mean, there are entire channels devoted to just 40k, and you can make a very healthy amount of videos throughout your whole channel just about 40k, because it's massive and it keeps expanding. It's not like a done series. You know, like Middle Earth. It's not expanding at the same rate as 40k or something, or SCP. Oh, that's cool. I never even thought of that. Like, if you just slap some goggles on, you can cure you can cure blind. Interesting. So yeah, it was causing me not a small amount of stress. I mean, for most people, it would... I don't experience much stress. So when I do find some stress, it's like, hold up, what's this going on? So it's just... It's not even really primarily the fact that it causes me stress, or that it was a daunting task. Really, the thing is, I really like Warhammer 40k. I think it's a really cool setting. There's a lot of just crazy, awesome, bombastic stories and characters and factions and all that good stuff. It's really cool. But I do not have the time to give 40k the attention that it deserves. You know, I'm trying to cram these videos, and I'm trying to cram in research and all this sort of stuff, and it's just, it becomes a half-assed product in the end, because it doesn't have my full attention for like a whole week or whatever. You know, I'm not living, breathing 40k. So that's why I decided after I finished the Ultramarines video, because I was like, this is a fucking 10-minute long video about, you know, this massively important sub-faction in 40k, the Ultramarines. And then I think about all the other Space Marine chapters, and, you know, they each have this long histories and all these events, and, like, you know, throughout the Horus Heresy and all the, you know, this just whole millennia of history. And so it's just like, okay, if I work on a video on the Blood Angels now as a side series, compared to if I do a video on the Blood Angels a few years from now, when it's my main series that I focused entirely on, those two videos are going to be very different. And I think one of those videos is going to be a lot better than the other. And so since I don't want to redo videos, really, I don't want to make the same video twice, I don't really do that, then ultimately I decided I should hold off. And so that's where we are. I knew people would be upset, but based on all the comments I got on my comment announcing it, most people were pretty understanding. The thing is, though, ultimately, I don't know the future. Sad to say. And so even though right now I can say I fully intend to come back to 40K and make it a main series and blah, 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 blah. Fuck. There's no... God, there's no protection against that. Even though I intend that 100% right now. In a few years' time, it may come to the point where my SCP series, you know, SCP's still going super strong, more and more people are coming into it, and I'm one of the top names on SCP YouTube, and I've got 1 million subscribers, and every SCP video I put out gets, you know, hundreds of thousands of views. We could get to that situation. And suddenly it's like, whoa, hold up. I can't just stop SCP and switch to 40K just because I feel like it. I got bills to pay, man. So it's hard to say. I mean, it could go the opposite direction. SCP starts to just become blasé. Not as many people are as interested in it as we thought. It falls off. Kids get older and they're like, SCP, whatever. And I never get to that point. And it's like, well, time to switch it up. Warhammer's the future. Maybe, I don't know. Point is, I don't know. All I can say is right now I intend to switch at some point in the future and make SCP a side series. SCP is much easier to do as a side series. Anyways, so what's going to happen then is right now I'm actually working on a Warcraft video. It's titled An Introduction to Warcraft Lore for WoW Classic. So it's very much directed at people interested in playing WoW Classic. So it's a much more topical video than I suppose I normally make. And overall, it is just an introduction to Warcraft lore. But I'm focusing on things that are relevant to vanilla World of Warcraft. And, you know, as you might know, there's been a number of expansions to World of Warcraft that have added and altered a lot of things in the lore. And I am ignoring pretty much all of those. Because for WoW Classic, none of that is relevant. There's a lot of things you just don't need to know. You know, Archimonde and Sargeras and Illidan and, you know, all these different big names and characters that don't appear in WoW Classic in almost any form, and therefore have no relevance to that video. Relevance to someone just trying to get into Warcraft lore as they start playing. Fuck! God damn it! It doesn't have any relevance. So, I'm actually not super knowledgeable about Warcraft lore. I like it. I mean, it's not like the video doesn't mention Sargeras or Illidan. I do mention them. And, you know, I do mention the impact that those characters have. But it's a sort of a brief discussion, because I'm trying to throw in a lot of lore in one short video. You know, I'm trying to explain the origin of all the sapient races and things like that. I mean, this has been my credo since I've started making exploring videos. If you bog people down with too many details, and especially too many names, they don't learn anything. Yeah, that's the thing with making an introduction lore video, is you want to tantalize people. You want to drop like a lot of little tidbits that they'll remember and that will interest them into learning more. Now, whether they learn more from a future Warcraft lore series by the Exploring series, or whether they learn more on their own by reading or whatever, all that matters is that I get them interested. So, introduction lore videos are usually some of the most difficult things I do. Especially if I'm not incredibly knowledgeable in the first place. Because then I have to do a lot more reading. But I've been finding it pretty interesting so far because I didn't know a whole lot. And Warcraft lore is... it's not as rock solid as many franchises of lore and things. There's been a lot of retcon and alterations, and like the War of the Ancients, big war in Azeroth history, has gone through like 3 different iterations with relatively minor differences, I suppose, but still. But like, I never knew that trolls were like the first sapient race knocking about. I didn't know that night elves came from trolls. That was sort of news to me. Dude, it's unavoidable. What the fuck? Do you have to just be a certain level? Does True Knight protect against that? I guess I'll try. Man, Crick and his wife. Yeah. That's a good lore video. So I'm just right now I'm just trusting that my brain will sort it out. Yeah, there seemed to be some contention among fans about the whole Night Elf coming from trolls. But as far as I could read, that seemed to be pretty much confirmed. I didn't have any like hesitation about putting it in. It's basically like the reverse case of Middle Earth and like orcs being made from elves. So that's what I'm working on right now. That'll drop sometime this week, probably Thursday. Yeah, I guess that's all there is to say about that. This week on this channel, we finished up Final Fantasy Tactics A2. Fun game. We've been working on Bloodstained. Fun game. And we just started up Gibbous. Point and click adventure game. I have finished recording Bloodstained. I have finished the game. I beat it with the good ending and all that. So I've sort of calculated it out, and I think the final part of Bloodstained will be uploaded on the 26th. There's no way True Knight is going to protect Bannon. Oh, maybe I should throw him in the back row. That might do it. Or I could just have him defend. So Bloodstained will end right before I start Control. So then we'll be doing Control and Gibbous. And then once Gibbous is done, probably Metroid Prime. There we go. We got him. Looking for a Let's Play a Call of Cthulhu by me. Well, I did it. Relatively recently. I mean, I don't do playlists anymore because I got really lazy. I apologize. Anyways, moving on. I don't think I have anything to say about board games, so on to roll Mangg. exciting actually was not an incredibly exciting session, but it was a good one. Last time we ended with London exploding from a nuclear explosion. The others were not incredibly pleased with me, but I was able to convince them to come back, get together, and do one more job. And if they are not happy with it, then we can go our separate ways. But I promised them at the end of the mission, they would each have at least 50 million credits, which is quite a bit. And Ziggy and I had talked before the session, because I had said, you know, I want something ultra high risk, ultra high reward, something just crazy. And he couldn't really think of something that we would do. So he asked me for ideas of what I might be thinking of. And I said, well, you know, nuclear missiles, bombs, things like that are probably in pretty high demand right now in that setting. But that might be just too similar to the last mission. You know, you don't want to keep doing nuclear stuff. So I was just like, okay, something just that... something that no one would be crazy enough to steal but us. And I was like a giant mech. And he's like, oh, all right, that's good. Giant mech. So that's what it ended up being. A plan to steal a giant mech. A Jaeger, if you will. Which is certainly a difficult thing to steal. No doubt about it. This isn't a setting where giant mechs are a dime a dozen. They're very well controlled and very exclusive, very expensive. The market value of a functioning mech in this setting is like 1 billion credits. So, yeah, trying to steal something worth 1 billion credits is not simple. But this is what I wanted. I wanted something just absolutely crazy that I could just plan the ever-loving shit out of. And either we steal it successfully, and we get paid a whole hell of a lot, or we die. That's what I wanted. That's what we got. So I tell them, like, you know, we're gonna steal giant mech. I don't know where we're gonna steal it from yet at this point. I don't know anything other than it's gonna be a mech. And so I tell them, like, and I just make up a number. This was before he told me about the billion credit value. I just made up a number to them, and I'm like, look, if we steal a mech, we find a good buyer, we can sell it for 300 million easily. And when you consider, okay, you know, market value of a good functioning mech is 1 billion. That's like on the open market. This is going to be some black market shady. Everyone's going to know it's stolen kind of thing. So I think 300 million is a good number. So they're all on board. They're fine with us stealing a mech. So we start doing some research around and trying to figure out where and who is building mech. Who's got these mechs? I think Ziggy throws a few options at us. I don't remember exactly where. I know we settled on Japan. The reason I settled on Japan is primarily because of the exit strategy. Like, if we try and steal a mech in Russia, there's nowhere to go except more Russia. you know, or like go up to the Arctic Circle or some shit like that. Or is that down? I don't know. Anyways, the North Pole. Into Siberia. Otherwise, you're landlocked, and you're just gonna get blown the fuck up. It's not good. Japan, however, is surrounded by ocean, and if we can get a mech capable of underwater travel, we have a much better exit strategy. So that was my thinking for picking Japan. Also, I figured Japan, giant mechs, it's just a good fit. They've got to have the best giant mechs. So we all fly into Japan, and I begin thinking. It's of course a giant corporation that is creating and owns these mechs. So it's a big ass corporation. This is like their top secret, not top secret, it's not a secret, but this is their most like expensive, exclusive technology, these giant mechs. And so I began thinking, how do we go about stealing even one of these? They have like 8. They have 8 of these right now. Stealing one of them, that's all I want. I'll let you ponder for a moment. This, it's just one of those just fun mental problems. How do you steal a giant mech from a massive corporation and get away with it with your lives? I decided first that we needed an inside man. We needed somebody on the inside that could provide all sorts of services. Providing information about the facility itself, potentially distracting or, disabling some security systems, someone familiar with the mechs themselves, someone that could disable the other mechs, all sorts of things like that. We need an inside man. Now, often an inside man is one of the crew. They'll get a job there, or they'll sneak in or something like that. Both of those options are pretty bad. Sneaking in, if we could sneak into this super high-end military whatever facility, we'd already be pretty good. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. There's too many roles involved. There's too many risks involved. We'd just end up one member down. So sneaking in is out. Getting a job there, also out. This is a very high-end military scientific facility, and the people working there are going to be, background checked and vetted more than anywhere else on Earth. The second problem, of course, is that none of us are Japanese. Not to say this corporation exclusively hires Japanese, but a white man strutting in there, a Caucasian, is going to be even at more of a disadvantage, especially since none of us speak Japanese. So getting one of us in is just no go. So we need an inside man that doesn't work for our crew. Now, you can declare contacts in the sprawl. We could declare a contact we know works in the facility, but there are limitations on that, as decided by the DM. Chances are Ziggy's not going to give us an extremely helpful contact that easily that happens to work in the mech division of this corporation and happens to be buddies with us, willing to sell out, all their secrets and lose his job and his life and blah, blah, blah. Pretty slim odds. So we need someone knowledgeable about robotics and mechs, is Japanese, is trusted, and is also willing to sell out the entire company and potentially lose his life in service of us. That's really a golden goose, isn't it? You're not going to find somebody like that. You have to make someone like that. And so that that resulted in the Manchurian Candidate plan, where we find a Japanese individual that knows a lot about robotics and mechs and could actually legitimately get a job at this corporation, and we simply brainwash them over the course of like a year until they are fully loyal to the crew and to our cause. And then they get a job at the corporation and they are our inside man. Now, we could just find any old guy that already works for a corp that, you know, is familiar with robotics and blah, blah, blah. But we need someone a bit more impressionable than that. We need a college student, a university student, whatever you want to call it. You know, some 20-year-old or whatever that's gonna graduate soon with a degree in advanced robotics. You know, someone that could potentially get a job at this corporation. And we need to kidnap them and brainwash them. You know, the Sprawl, Shadowrun, you're not really ever playing good guys. So this is just the kind of stuff that happens. So, then I began to sit down and contemplate how to kidnap a college student in Japan and get away with it without anyone knowing. It bothers me somewhat how naturally that sort of planning comes to me, because I don't know if that's really like an applicable skill in real life in any good way. But I decided the best bet for pulling this off is pretty simple. I mean, we don't need to make this extremely convoluted. Pretty simple. We send a letter to this university student and tell them that they've been offered a job at a corporation. And the company is sending them a limo to their university to give them a tour of the facility. You know, these corporations are fierce competitors, and they're trying to poach these kids from universities pretty young. So that the competitors don't get the kids. Then we send a couple of our crew members in a limo. They get the kids. They tranquilize the kids. I mean, kids, they're 20 years old. They tranquilize these guys. And they take them out into rural Japan, up into the mountains, where we have a nice little house and with a basement that is a functioning brainwashing facility. Now, it just so happens that one of the members of our crew is a member of a cult that does some brainwashing. So that helps. Because he knows a guy that lives in Japan that is a member of the cult. And so he's a Japanese citizen. Which means he's the one that's buying this house, not any of us. So the house is legitimately purchased with our money under his name. And we begin sort of, you know, changing out the basement and things like that. We put in some like sentry guns and security cameras and blah, blah, blah. And we need a limo. So to get a limo, we don't want to buy a limo. That's expensive and we're not going to, you know, we're criminals. So we just want to rent a limo, use it for the one job, and then like throw it in the ocean. So to rent a limo, we need an ID. So Studs is tasked with getting a fake ID. He ends up getting fake IDs for all of us, even though I feel it's pointless. Instead of paying for the fake IDs, he does this job for this guy to kill some nightclub owner, which he does. He gets the fake ID. He gets the limo. It's all good. We send the limo, or we send the letters to 2 university students that I find that sort of fit our bill of being in the right department, the right intelligence, the right prospects, but they're not connected to any sort of powerful political family, military family, things like that. You know, no family that would send, like, they would spend... They would have access to the amount of resources that would threaten us. Just sort of normal families that'll cry to the government and the police, and they'll look into it, but they'll never find them. You know, things like that. Because, you know, if you kidnap, like, the prime minister's son or whatever, then you're pretty fucked. Because that's what he's like, get those mechs out there, roam the countryside. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. So we successfully send the letters, we send the limo, the kids come out of the university ready to get into the limo, but they are joined by, like, the dean or whatever, some sort of adult member of the university, and he says that he wants to go along. Yeah, to sort of chaperone. And Studs handles it well. He doesn't try and bluff things. I say handles it well because he doesn't handle it. He hands it off to me. I guess that's... I mean, that's what I would want him to do. So I guess... What can I say? So all he says to the guy is that he's just the driver, and he would have to clear it with his the supervisor of the corporation. So he rings me up. I get on the phone with this guy. I tell him, you know, we're trying to just get these kids earlier than the competitors. You know, it's a dog-eat-dog world. And he's, you know, I said I'm a little concerned that these students need a chaperone to visit the facility. You know, we're pretty much ready to hire, and now you're saying they require a chaperone. That makes us rethink things. And so I guess, you know, I rolled well, which obviously is the ultimate thing. But I would say the guy was worried then that he would cost these kids a lucrative future just because he wanted to go chaperone them. So in the end, he backed down. We got him in the car. We tranked him. It was all good. I had Studs drive out of the city and not come directly to our house. Just sort of drive around rural Japan, like take the long way around. Because it's unclear exactly how networked cyberpunk Japan is. You know, how rural is the rural area? Where do the cameras end? So, just to give us a little bit more leeway, don't drive directly to the house. These are the sort of things I think about. So we got the students chained up in our basement, ready to be brainwashed. That's where we ended the session. So that was most of phase 1 of the plan. Phase 1 ends when we release the kids. Now, like I said, that's going to be like a year later. There will be a search. There's not much I can do to sort of... I mean, I've done everything I could to put off anyone finding them. So, if Ziggy decides they find them, that's the way it is. But I don't think he will. And by the time we release them, they'll be, they'll be our best buddies. They will gladly give their life to our cause. But the question is, how exactly do we reintroduce them to society? You could give them new identities, and they just quietly reintegrate themselves, but that defeats a lot of the purpose of what we did and sacrifices an important advantage that we could gain. Instead, I've decided we're going to just let them go. And they'll rejoin society. And there will be much fanfare. Because they will say that they escaped. Actually, I mean, we're only going to let one of them go, because we don't want to let both of them go just yet. Because one of them is just a backup plan. So you don't release your backup plan at the same time as your main plan. So we let one of them go, and he says that he escaped. His kidnappers got lazy or they got comfortable in the situation. It's an Elizabeth Smart situation. And and he managed to escape. But he says the kidnappers were very careful about keeping their identities a secret from him. So he really has no information. Everything's sort of hazy. Now, chances are things will go smoothly from that point. But just to be safe, our crew is going to leave the house. We're going to go separate ways, and we're just going to hang out in some villages apart. Just to be safe for a few weeks. Just in case they end up finding the house afterwards based on some clue. Like they find some... they got some fucking Sherlock in the police department. And he's like, oh, this limestone on your shirt, that means they're here. You never know what bullshit. Better safe than sorry. So there will be a lot of fanfare with his return. And he'll do some interviews, of course, on local news channels. And during those interviews, he will mention that his dream now that he has returned, he's rejoined society, his dream has always been to work in the mech division of that corporation. And now that he's back and he has another chance at life, he hopes that he can fulfill that dream. Now, ideally, the corporation will recognize the great publicity that hiring this guy would bring them, because he's not stupid. You know, he did almost have an advanced robotics degree. So hopefully they recognize the potential of that. If that fails and they don't offer him a job, he will apply for a job. That's their second chance. Hopefully they hire him at that point. If not, if both of those fail, then we find out the guy that interviewed, or that handled his application at the corporation, and we put a little pressure on him. He's probably not going to be very high up. He's not going to be incredibly powerful or wealthy. We can find out where he lives and just put a little pressure on him. That's plan C, so hopefully it doesn't resort to that, but you never know. Once he is actually hired at the corporation, that ends phase 1 of the plan and begins phase 2, which is reconnaissance, information gathering about the facility and all sorts of stuff about the mechs and the security and what he can do while in there and blah, blah, blah. That phase 2 also involves planning out all our entry, our escape, our equipment, hiring other crew members temporarily, all that sort of stuff. It's a big, I told you our escape route of going into the ocean, but getting to that point is the very tricky part. So I'm really not sure how that planning is going to go. I have no idea. It's going to be just on the fly. I'm pleased with how phase 1 has started and the plan so far, but this is a big undertaking. It excites me a whole hell of a lot. I just sort of wonder, like, if I threw this situation at the people in my group, like if I was DMing, I wonder how they would go about it. Like, I wonder how any given group would go about doing something like this. It's a big task, stealing a giant mech and getting away with it. But I'm very excited. Then, of course, phase 3 will be actually doing the plan, stealing the mech, and then phase 4 is selling the mech. We're probably going to be selling this to a rival corporation or country. I don't know who exactly Japan's enemies would be at this point. But Russia is always buying up shady shit, right? So maybe we'll sell it to Russia. We could use the mech and try and take over the world or some nonsense, but that's a fantasy. That's a fucking fantasy, man. We'd have to steal all 8 mechs, and even then, I'd have to ignite like a worldwide rebellion against the corpse, and that takes far more effort than just stealing 1 mech and selling it. So that's a fantasy. For now, we're just trying to get paid. Yeah, so that's exciting stuff. We'll see how that goes. I doubt this will all wrap up tomorrow. It's going to take a couple sessions at least. And after this session tomorrow, we have that WoW LAN party next Monday. And then the following Monday is Labor Day. I'm doing all sorts of moving in stuff. So after tomorrow, we're not playing for a few weeks. But I think once we finish this mission and wrap it all up, that'll probably be the end of the Sprawl campaign. And Ziggy said that he's going to take a break from DMing for a little while. So I think Mert might pick up the torch. It's hard to... Mert's a terrible choice. Because he leaves like an hour early every week. So I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe someone else will DM. I have a few campaigns that I'd like to... that I'd be willing to run, I suppose. But I'm not crazy about DMing. They'd be all pretty short. I'd like to do like an SCP campaign with Delta Green. But really, they wouldn't be like SCP members. They'd be like the FBI, unusual incidents, whatever. You know, the UIU. They'd be more bungling and inept than just an MTF for the SCP. They'd be like the FBI first response teams checking out some weird stuff in some small town. That's more what it would be than like you're an MTF for the SCP and you know you've killed reality benders and gods and you get in there. Like the group is not that capable. But you send them into a small town in like Oregon or whatever to check out some oddity. There'll probably be some fun investigations and stuff. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I think that about wraps us up. Around about an hour. Check out... Oh yeah, I didn't even tell you what I was working on with the Exploring series, other than Warcraft. Check out Aquatic SCPs. Finally. It's been on the Patreon polls for like 8 months. Check out that video tomorrow. Good old watery fun. Check out that Warcraft introduction lore video later this week. We've got more Bloodstain and more Gibbous on this channel this week. And should all be a fun time. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.